Retroblasting is a YouTube channel for adult pop culture enthusiasts. Anyone under the age of 13 should only watch this channel with your parents. Retroblasting is not a children's channel. I've always said when you're an action figure collector, you can't have too many vehicles. A few months ago, you might recall I did a review of Airfix's QuickBuilds for their World War II fighter planes. Well, apparently, Airfix USA got wind of that video, and they reached out to Retroblasting and they said, "Hey, do you like cars?" And I thought, yeah, I love cars. My three favorite cars of all time are the 1987 Aston Martin Vantage, the Lancia Stratos, and of course the DeLorean, which I own. I said, yeah, I like cars. And the rep at Airfix USA said, would you like us to send you some quick build cars? And at first I was like, are there any caveats to this review? Like, I always ask those questions because Retroblasting is independent. We don't get into, marketing deals or anything like that. And he was like, no, I just love the video that you did. And that was encouraging because in that video I did point out the pros and cons of those airplanes, although there weren't many cons because they were very well engineered. And so I said, sure, this would be fun to look at. So he sent me two vehicles, new vehicles from the QuickBuilds line, and they are both Volkswagens. And one is the camper van, and the other one is the famous Beetle. And at first I was like, oh no, they're not the same scale as the airplanes. Although if they were in scale with the airplanes, they'd be, really small. But then when I looked at them, I realized, oh man, like they're not quite in scale, but they're close enough that for 3 3/4 inch scale action figures and shorter, you can actually work these into dioramas as well if you wanted to. So right off the bat, just like the airplanes, you assemble them in a kind of Lego style construction. They have that kind of click fit, stud to groove, friction fit construction. So you build them like you would build a Lego piece. But like the airplanes that I reviewed, which is clearly Airfix's sort of forte, they made sure that the final build doesn't have Lego studs on the outside, that it's smooth. So it's like a model kit that's easier to build. So it's like a model kit for the casual builder, like I said with the airplanes. One of the nice things I noticed about these cars is that they have rubber tires, unlike the airplanes. And I assume that's because the cars are actually in a larger scale. So it was easier to incorporate, parts of different materials. And these wheels, they're perfectly aligned. I mean, the vehicles roll really well. They look great. The first thing I thought when I had them together, admittedly as a Gen Xer, the first thing I thought was, ooh, I could paint the Beetle to look like Bumblebee, or I could paint it and sticker it to look like Herbie. This immediately reminded me of the Libyans van from Back to the Future. And so I thought, well, if I ever wanted to, I could, do some photography or something with one of my DeLorean models and this in the background and get an action figure, sticking out of the top with an RPG or something like that. The versatility of these vehicles does intrigue me. Now, are they able to actually fit and accommodate a 3 3/4 inch figure? Not quite. I don't think that if you took the roof and the doors off, I don't think you could quite get a G.I. Joe in the driver's seat. But that being said, as far as them sticking out of the roof of the van or standing next to them, for a diorama, I think they'd be perfect. Now, again, they're slightly smaller scale, but that doesn't dissuade me from their quality, their low price point, and the rapidity of being able to build them. Time is everything to all of us these days, and so being able to get such quality designs for any potential diorama and get multiples and things like that, I think is really encouraging. I think that's the promise and the potential of these on a more broad-based scale. The potential for these cars goes far beyond just being model kits on a shelf, and I think that's what's really exciting about these as an action figure collector. I'm looking at these from 2 or 3 different angles. Now, officially, these are supposed to reflect the 1960s, the late 60s, early 70s. They have kind of a sort of a hippie flower power deco design. But the nice thing is that all of those symbols and flowers and all that stuff are decals, and so they're all optional. I didn't put them on these when I built them out of the box because I'm not really into that aesthetic. I really wanted just the base vehicles and then see what I could do with them. I'm actually really pleased seeing these. I'm hoping that you know, maybe Airfix will come around to doing like a Lancia Stratos or an 87 Aston Martin Vantage. Please, that would be great. You know, because those are models that I'd want as models as well. Like these, obviously Volkswagen has a huge fan following, and so I know that these are very appealing to a lot of people. For me, they're appealing in that different way. It's like, ooh, I could potentially rope these into a bigger action figure diorama as props or something like that. But the build is so solid. I would kill to see other vehicle makes and models in this style. And I'd love to see them one day maybe take on some of the licensed properties, like, you know, MacGyver's Jeep, his Jeep Wrangler Sahara, or the A-Team van, or, you know, it doesn't always have to be licensed, obviously, but that would be really fun, you know, the Airwolf helicopter, you know, in a quick build from Airfix. I think that would be great. It's the only con with these that I see is that they are in their own sort of unique scale and that they don't line up with one another. So if you get into and I totally get why that is, because you don't want airplanes that are so big that they become cumbersome to collect, but you don't want cars that are so small, it's like putting together micro machines. Nobody wants to do that. But the scale they chose, and then the final engineering of each one so far out of the 5 that I've built, I don't really have any complaints. I mean, they don't have opening doors. They do have, this one does have, which is kind of cool, this one does have an opening engine compartment on the back. Get that up right there. So the camper van does have an opening engine compartment. But for example, you know, the Beetle doesn't have an opening hood or an opening engine bonnet. I get why though, because these are quick builds. They are Lego style builds, and so you can't engineer all those hinges in there and also get the structural integrity that you need for these. You know, the airplanes had moving propellers, and that's about it. Overall though, I think these have the potential to be highly customizable. And I would love to see what Airfix does with the line in the future. Like if they could get some iconic, you know, vehicles from famous movies and TV shows, like the Mad Max Interceptor or something like that. I mean, that would just be so cool. But overall, I'm really pleased with these as much as I was the World War II fighter planes. Am I as into Volkswagens as fighter planes? No, I'm not. But I recognize the quality of these, and if you're a Volkswagen fan, there's actually a broader range of these cars from what I understand. They have some exotic sports cars, more modern, things like that. So I'm curious to see what else is out there because, for example, if they have like a Lamborghini, almost like a Diablo style, and then maybe if they had like a old school notchback Ford Mustang, maybe I could do like the pole position cars from the 80s cartoon if I just did a repaint once I put them together. Yeah, I just see a lot of potential in these, so it kind of jazzes me a little bit. But yeah, if you're into model kits, but you don't have time to put, you know, glue and paint ones together, these are great. And they have them in cars and planes. I'm going to keep exploring the possibilities on this one, but thanks for watching this, guys, and we'll see you on the next video.